Hello. Hey. Welcome back to Individual Perspective Podcast. I'm your host, Daris D, McKinney. And you know, we're doing a quick Friday night episode. Forgive my scruffiness. I wanted to grow it out and then trim it down to the fine tuning of it, but I wanted to let it grow out a lot. And I think it's werewolf or not a lot. So it's time to trim it up and then let it kind of. But that's just to let you know I'm not homeless. Okay. So oh, I did an episode yesterday that was really hardcore. And the great part about it is it was very much how I like to give it, but you got to get through some of the beginning of it, and it's a little rough. I did some grammar issues and a couple stuttering of it, and it's because I work and I'm doing movies and stuff like that, and I got some movies that I'm busting my ass to get them to the standard that I feel like to let them go, and it's pretty much there. Um, but I work and I make a great living and stuff, and try to make it where I can kind of do this until you guys click, subscribe, and like, and if you could kind of contribute any dollar, $2, whatever, to the cause until you guys get into the flow and I can get my viewerships up and everything. I gotta do what I gotta do. You know what I mean? So it's a little rough around the edge, but you gotta watch the episode that I did yesterday. It's phenomenal because I kind of go after Fox News and Brian Kilmeade and General King, and really what I really like to say about a lot of that stuff, I really nailed it. And I'm like that all the time when I get in the flow of it and everything, but when I step away because I'm working and multitasking in my life so much, sometimes I don't that flow is not there, and I stutter and probably have some issues with my grammar, because I will say like or uh gotta or some stuff like that. It just out. I'm conscious of it, so I'll break it sooner or later. But yeah, when I'm trying to just kind of have a conversation with you guys, it's a little messy sometimes. It's a little messy, you know what I mean? So um, get that light off of me a little bit, So what I want to do is really come back in continuation to that conversation, because I know it's hard for people to really understand, because it's Iran and Iran war. It seems so far away from what's valuable for our everyday lives and everything. But if you look at the episode, I kind of break it down a lot of psychosis and business and acumen, and almost like just the interaction of politics and how it's communicated to the public that really plays a factor to what's going on in your everyday life and how it really truly affects you. Okay. So I wanted to come back in. I pulled some some interviews, some press conferences, and all that stuff, and we're gonna kind of knock out some stuff. Okay. So I just wanted to let you know this episode and the continuation. If I cut off or it end up going too late or something, and I end up saying, you know what, let me just stop here. I'm gonna continue it and really, because I think I'm gonna do a full encompassing of my point of view on this situation. Okay, so in that first, we got to start off with our disclaimer, because people like to sue, and people don't want you to say what you want to say. They don't want you to have your own mind and have your own independence of point of view or anything. So they like to sue you. So you got to give a disclaimer to say, hey, this is my opinion and everything is alleged. And this is my point of view. It's entertaining my audience and all that good stuff. You got to say that in order to, be able to have freedom of speech. That's how much social media and the internet in our country of America is not a freedom of speech country anymore. You gotta put disclaimers up in order for you to communicate whatever you want and whatever belief you want out your mouth. You gotta set up some legal binding situation before you do that. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna shut up for a second and I'm gonna put my disclaimer up and we're gonna come back in and we're gonna rock and roll. Okay? See you in a moment. Daris D. McKinney, Individual Perspective Podcast. Thank you guys. Hit that like, join. I'm just going to put this disclaimer up. We're going to do our intro and we're going to get to business. See you in a moment. Okay, welcome back. Individual Perspective Podcast. I'm your host, Daris D. McKinney. We're gonna give you the individual perspective on things here. That's what we do here. That's what we do, okay? Checking my audio. It's all good. My readings are good. I can see that you guys can hear me loud and clear. Individual Perspective Podcast, exposing media misinformation, lies, misdirection, fake news. Okay, I know people like to say if anybody use fake news, they are Trumper. But it so happen to be sometimes people in life, in history, they nail it. They nailed the moments, they nailed the time, they nailed the era. Okay, and the Trump era is, you may not like it, but it is what it is, you know. And I don't want you guys to like Trump. I'm not asking you to vote for Trump or vote for his causes or whatever. I just want to give you my perspective. Okay, you got yours, I got mine, and you know, sometimes it's not probably in our best interest to even like each other. But we got to try because, you know, I got my mother, my family members, probably my father too. They all are on the opposite side of me. And these are people I love. So you can't really truly hate anybody in opposition of your beliefs, even though that may not be in your best interest. Okay. Because they family, you love them. And if you don't, if you just don't talk about it, be all right. You know, if you kind of not let it, like, he's like, oh, come on, God, you know, vote for this person. This person's about to dig in my pocket. They're about to destroy my productivity. They're about to destroy what I'm trying to accomplish with policies and bills and statues and stuff like that. Are you really? Because of what? Because you think he's Hitler? You think he's a Ku Klux Klan? You think he's a Nazi? You think he's like trying to take over the country? And you're gonna hurt my upmo mobility? And you just gotta make sure everything you're doing is just to push through it. Just to push through it. Okay? So that's, you know, I'm been animated about my point of view, but it's pretty somewhat accurate. Okay. The MOU. Okay. Memorandum of Understanding. You hear people talking about this U.S. and Iran Memorandum of Understanding, a deal that he signed. He didn't sign a deal, okay? Memorandum of Understanding. It's like a memo. It's a conversation that Iran and U.S. had, Trump and the Iranian government had, and they come to an agreement. These are the topics that we're going to talk about. These are the things that we're going to put into the deal, into the agreement. The agreement is the actual thing that's going to finalize the actual deal and what's going to happen and how it's going to happen. So that's why it's called Memorandum of Understanding. A memo, okay? It's not a contract. It's not an agreement. It's not a final deal. It's a Memorandum of Understanding. We need to see that you're going to do these things, that you're going to move towards these things. Otherwise, we're going to start tearing up the way you feed your people. We're going to destroy your oil fields. We're going to destroy your bridges. Any way of being able to economically eat, we're going to destroy that, because that's all that's left. You don't got no military. You got no navy. You got no political infrastructures that can really outdo us. You're pretty handicapped. So everything that's left is us to show you that we're not trying to destroy your future. But if you don't act like a civilized country in this, and then your people are so weak that they don't want to even overthrow you, so our only option is to take your power away from you and leave you with nothing. And what is your power? Your power is your oil. That's all you have. That's all you can do to feed the people, to try to rebuild yourself, to try to somewhat have something going on. Otherwise, if we destroy your oil fields and we destroy your bridges, then the people got to eat you. That's how that's going to work out. So a Memorandum of Understanding is saying this is a memo of what we understand that we're going to come to an agreement in. And that's the actual situation they're in. And in that agreement, we start from here. Open up the stray. I'll give you guys $6 billion that allows for you to kind of, and actually the $6 billion, that actually, I wanna pull this up so you can see that. They give them a lot of people saying, you giving them money and blah, 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 blah. But nope, they give them $6 billion that they gotta actually, what in the hell? They use $6 billion that they gotta buy what we want them to buy with it, and it's only allowed for them to purchase certain things that we want them to purchase. It's almost like we purchase it on their behalf. You get what I'm saying? Or cutters purchase it on their behalf or something like that. But we'll get to that. Let me see. I'm trying to find it because it was in here. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to pull it up. I'm multitasking, y'all. I'm like the switchboard in the newsroom, you know. So 6 billion approved. Oh, they pulled it off. Wow, they pulled it off. Oh, there's one more step, so they need to prove that I'm a human. Psycho, boom, boom, boom. Verify. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Okay, let me put this on screen so you guys can see what I'm looking at. Okay. Yeah, we coming in. We coming in. We doing. We're coming in to do some work. Okay. Okay. Let me see. Here we go. Let me switch this to you guys. Boom. You see that? So the only money that they're gonna get into the contract is done in the agreement for the uranium and any stockpile of nuclear material. Anything is destroyed and disintegrated. The only money that they're gonna see that they're gonna get is Iran to get access to $6 billion of frozen funds to buy U.S. goods. Do you understand that? Iran to get access to $6 billion of frozen funds to buy U.S. goods. That's and these are the people that's actually dealing with the money transaction of it, not the propaganda of it, not Israel, because they don't like the deal and they feel like you should starve out the Iranians and everything like that. And this is what they're saying. Okay, so the Trump administration will allow Iran to access $6 billion of its oil money held in Qatar to buy humanitarian and non-sanctioned goods from the U.S. under an interim deal between Tehran and Washington, meaning that they gotta buy what we want them to buy. Okay. The move forms part of the billions of dollars in financial incentives that the administration is dangling to ensure Islamic Republic commits to the Memorandum of Understanding. That's what we're about to go into. It's signed with the U.S. on Wednesday. Okay, so the Memorandum of Understanding that is signed with the U.S. on Wednesday, and to follow up nuclear talks. Okay, and that's the pretty much finalization of the deal. The funds will be released in phases, starting with the 60 days extended ceasefire set out in the final deal. Pretty much set out in the deal, depending on the reopening of the Straits of Hormuz and the progress of talks towards the final settlement. Okay, they will only be used to buy American products, said diplomats briefing. They will only be used. So the money will only be used to buy. Okay, sorry. Got things popping up on my screen. They will only be used to buy American products, said the diplomat briefed on the deal. So the people that's dealing with the money and pretty much our actual treasury, dealing with Qatar and dealing with, like, you got to understand the reason why America has so much power over all the banking in the world is that everybody uses US dollar. So all money is to be converted to US dollars in order for it to even show up as a dollar amount in any country's system. Before, even if they're exchanging, even if somebody got a company in Europe or like London or something, in order for that money to show up as a bank account, the system and coding of that transaction is all ran in US dollars, because everybody has given in to the US dollar as the world's currency. So even if it's kind of like it's a yen or a franc or something like that, it's still converted as US dollars before it can be calculated as a certain dollar amount, even in the different countries' tally. Okay, I know, look, I'm going too much into the stuff like that. So I just wanted to show you guys, when you're hearing the propaganda of, oh, America gave $6 billion to Iran, is under these conditions. Okay, everything else is propaganda. It's just propaganda. Okay, so now let's go back to I'll bring this in. Oops, sorry about that. Trying to arrange myself here. Okay, we are going to go to, I want to go to how they're talking about, I want to go through the 14 steps or the 14 items in the memorandum of understanding, and that's what Donald Trump signed. Just all it is not a deal. It's not a finalized deal. It's just a memorandum of understanding and say, hey, we are officially talking about and drafting an agreement and procedures on these 14 things. Okay, so here we go.
Okay, U.S. officials have just released details of the Memorandum of Understanding between the U.S. and Iran, which is due to be signed by Friday. Now, the agreement says, in part, the U.S. and Iran and their allies declare the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon. The U.S. undertakes with regional partners to develop a definitive, mutually agreed plan with at least $300 billion for the reconstruction of Iran. The U.S. further undertakes to terminate all types of sanctions against Iran, including the United Nations Security Council resolutions. Under the deal, the U.S. is going to begin the removal of its naval blockade. The U.S. further undertakes to remove its forces from the proximity of Iran within 30 days. While Iran reaffirms that it shall not procure or develop nuclear weapons, the two countries also agree to discuss the issue of enrichment and other mutually agreed matters related to Iran's nuclear deal. Donald Trump says that deal could be signed shortly, after which technical discussions on Iran's nuclear stockpile will begin immediately. And he clarified Iran can only have access to the $300 billion fund, quote, only if they're doing things right. He made those comments at a news conference on the sidelines of a G7 summit in France.
On Sunday, we reached an agreement with Iran that achieves everything we set out to accomplish, everything and much more. Ending the current conflict, reopening the Strait of Hormuz, and preventing Iran from ever obtaining a nuclear weapon. That's what it was all about. That was about 99%. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. They can't develop it, buy it. They can never have a nuclear weapon.
On the basis of what we know so far, Alan, it looks as though the U.S. appears to be giving Iran a tremendous amount on the basis that Iran will simply promise to do what it has always done, which is not to develop any nuclear weapons. How do you think this is going down in the U.S.?
Well, of course, it's just been made public, and we're beginning to see reaction on social media. A lot of people who would be considered allies, supporters of Donald Trump, are hugely critical. They say that this is an American defeat. They don't understand why Donald Trump would agree to this. That comes with the caveat that Donald Trump has said if he doesn't get the deal that he wants with the 60-day negotiation, that could go on, both sides can mutually agree to extend that, then he will resort to bombing again. But many people don't understand exactly what the United States is getting out of this. Remember when he started the war on the 28th of February?
It's so funny because, like, and the reason why I got to show you guys, I got to show you the Al Jazeera, I got to show you the Israel, and that way so we can kind of parse what the real document says. You get what I'm saying? They say that these are the real points of contention or points of agreement through the memorandum, but everybody is going on as if it's a finalized deal. That's why it's documented and signed as a memorandum of understanding, a memo of understanding, a memo to say we're going to try to come to some agreement on these key points. That's what a memorandum of understanding is. It's not binding. And then it is, and if you walk through the whole point, you'll see that it's a workout plan. You get what I'm saying? So that everybody say, oh, well, people don't understand why Trump agreed to this. People don't understand. He agreed to say, hey, y'all stop messing with the Strait of Hormuz so we won't blow up everything else that's left. And you guys kind of come into a deal, and let's work out a deal to the points that we want. But first of all, I need you guys to agree that you're going to get rid of any movement or any operations or any dealing with nuclear material before we can start doing anything. They've agreed to it. So they said, okay, if you agree to, we agree to destroy all all our nuclear. They have no possibility of having nuclear power and nuclear weapons or nuclear or uranium or nuclear energy or anything. We agreed to it under some conditions that we want. Trump said, you know what? That's cool. That's all I wanted you guys to get rid of. I don't care if you eat food and you make money and you get prosperous for your nation and stuff like that. Under no circumstances can you have a nuclear weapon. They agreed to it, or they said, okay, let's put that in the memo. Let's put that on the memo under these conditions. Let's put that on the memo under these. And they did that, and they came under that we are in conversations on how to nail and finalize in a contract these pretty much items on the memorandum of understanding. That's what the memorandum of understanding is. That's why Vance gotta go to Geneva, gotta go to Switzerland, gotta go to and a representative of the White House and everything. Why are they going to meet up with Iran? Why is Iran trying to get out of Iran? And the actual people that draw up the contracts trying to get away to get out of Iran without getting killed and everything by Israel or something like that. Why are they trying to do that? Because they're trying to come to a finalized deal. Otherwise, the memorandum would be the deal. But it can't be a deal. Why? Because they labeled it and they headlined it and they constructed it as a memorandum of understanding, not an agreement, not an agreement, not a deal, not a contract, not a finalized agreement. And that's how you know that it's not a deal. And they know that, but it's propaganda. Everybody want to be able to criticize what moves that Trump is making because they're on the outside of it and they're in the movement of whatever he's deciding, and they don't like it. The system don't like it. The suits don't like it. The political people don't like that they don't have control of Trump. Okay? That's what it is. So I said, you know what? I'm going to show you Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera is the way that the Arabic world, the westernized Arabic world play our game in communication. And then you got Israel and Palestine reporting. They give you what's been communicated from the Israel point of view and stuff like that. And then I'm going to show you what the document is leading out, that our media is able to kind of copy and paste and put it into some kind of text to say this is what it actually say from the documents that we say, and if they were wrong, they would be communicated by the White House, and the White House would give them any how can I say corrections that they need to make on their public on their platform. Otherwise, fake news. A lot of organization, the people that I pull, they are kind of giving you pretty much what has been communicated in the agreement, or how the sides are communicating it. And then with the three items, the three presentations, because obviously I always tell people, never just look at how one person says it. You got to use when you're doing news gathering, you got to compile references to tell you what most likely is the truth. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to get you to understand what the truth is of the situation. But what I wanted to make sure that you guys understood is, no matter how all these people talk about this stuff, remember, it's a memo of understanding, a memorandum of understanding. That is not a contract. That is not an agreement bind by the United Nations or even America or even our government, and even Iran is not binding. Because it's not a finalized agreeing contract to say you gotta do it this way. So the incentive for them to even go into a deal and to sit down and finalize the agreement, finalize the deal, is that they're giving them $6 billion. I already kind of showed you what the $6 billion could be used for, and they dangle the possibility, if you do this right, if you go through the steps right, if you do what we're asking for you to do right, we release all the Gulf countries to invest in your country to rebuild your buildings, to rebuild your infrastructure and all that other stuff. And they're all kind of agreeing that they're going to spend about $300 billion to do that. But you can't get none of that until you go through the procedures and the agreement that we're finalizing and do the actual steps that it takes. And by the end of it, you'll get that money. You get what I'm saying? And additionally, we will unfreeze money that we took from you, and that we took from the actual the transaction of the sales and barter system of the world transactions, that we are able to lock up money from you. We got billions of dollars of Iranian cash that we could just open up. It's not our money, it's theirs. It's just we got a freeze on it. You get what I'm saying? So in order for them to get that, they got to go through all the destroying their uranium, the nuclear material. We got to be able to watch them do it, and sending a crew of scientists to actually make sure that it's been done. It's a lot of procedures that they got to go. That's why the Memorandum of Understanding points out how and when all that stuff is going to be done. They're not going to tell you guys this. That's why I got to do the work of communicating this, because it's a lot of propaganda of, oh my God, the sky is falling. Trump lost. Trump did a bad deal. Blah, blah, blah. They know that Trump labels himself as a deal maker. So if they can give the propaganda of he did a bad deal, even if he didn't do a bad deal, the rhetoric of it is so atrocious that the average person think he did a bad deal. They're not looking at that these people are using propaganda and they just saying words and it ain't got nothing to do with what's actually going on. So they know that people, if you say something in sound bites, people think that that's real and that's the actual action, and that's the actual current function. And that's how dumb people are. Most people are dumb. Most people are herd, literally like herd. You can walk them into slaughter, literally.
He talked about regime change. And now he'll argue that there is a different regime, but the pockets of power are still the same. He urged the Iranian people to rise up and take control. That hasn't happened. And of course, he said that he wanted to end their support for proxies, which he described as terrorists, and also their missile program. That hasn't been addressed. It will be, says the Memorandum of Understanding, but the first issue, the most important issue, is going to be the issue, the most important.
Okay, I look like they're not reading it. He's talking shit, and they're just putting the text. Pretty much, they summarizing the text of the Memorandum of Understanding while he's bloviating. So I'm gonna read it to you. Okay, U.S.-Iran deal MOU text. Into war on all fronts, including in Lebanon. U.S. and Iran undertake to respect sovereignty. U.S. and Iran to reach final deal in a maximum of 60 days. Why is number 3 to reach final deal? Because that's the actual contract. That's the actual day. So they're saying that Iran and U.S. agreed to write up a contract, write up a deal, write up an agreement that will actually say what each party is going to get and what they're going to actually do in order for end results. And they're going to work this out by 60 days. Maximum 60 days, meaning from now or a couple of days ago to 60 days, they got to come up with the actual contract. They can't go further than that. They got to have an agreement on the 60 days. They got from now until then to come up with an agreement on the 60 days. We give incentives for them to act right within the 60 days and stay at the negotiation table and do whatever's got to be done to finalize the agreement and have it done by 60 days. If they don't go by 60 days, Trump said he'll drop bombs on their head. That's what he said. I'll take you to those press conferences so you can hear yourself. Okay? So, end of war on all fronts. I mean, they're trying to stop all fighting. They're trying to stop Israel. They're trying to stop Iran, and don't do any bombings or any attack, and stop it all right now. That's what that means. U.S. and Iran undertakes to respect sovereignty, meaning that America won't shoot anything or hit it like their boats or their oil fields and the country, anything. They won't shoot anything that belongs to Iran, and Iran agrees to not shoot our military bases or anything, or our ships or anything that will be our sovereignty, or it belongs to America. It's America's territory. That's what the agreement to the second one is too. So that's kind of communicates to you guys what that means. So let's go.
The Memorandum of Understanding. But the first issue, the most important issue, is going to be the nuclear program. But
so why he's talking shit? Because that's all point of view. That's all perspective, and it's like it's rhetoric. It means nothing. They're giving you the text of this on the side, okay? So I'm stopping and I'm reading it because that's what's need to be talked about. He don't need to be talking about how he feels about what the point of view is, his point of view, or what he perceived, what was said, and all other stuff. He needs to go only to what's the documents of the Memorandum of Understanding, what they're actually going to talk about and what they're going to do. U.S. to begin removing naval blockade, meaning that they're going to Iran, they would threaten the strength of Hormuz. You got to understand, the strength of Hormuz is just people, like different countries got their oil boats going to Qatar, going to UAE, going to Bahrain, and they grabbing gas from even Iranian oil to grab gas from Iran or any other states, and then they flow back out into the sea. But when you go in, you're just going in and you're doing a turn, and you're coming back out. But Iran was stopping people from being able to come back out because they were setting up bombs or they were shooting missiles. And a lot of those companies and a lot of the countries, they didn't want their ships to get blown up, and the oil companies didn't want their ships to get blown up because of a war that's going on between Israel and America and Iran. So they're like, I'm not gonna like cross over and go into a boat area or ocean area that's got like little bombs and stuff in it, or like little underwater bombs and stuff, and I got a boat that cost me $300 million that's gonna get blown up, and a ship that cost me $300 million or $1 billion, they're gonna get blown up because y'all in this war. So hundreds of boats stopped, and they've been there for 3 months. They got people on the boat that's like the workers on the actual boat. They haven't left. They've been on that boat eating whatever they can eat, doing whatever they can do, and they just been there for 3 months. So Iran agreed to not fire on those boats, not have underwater like booby traps and stuff on there. And because they did that, US, we blocked anything coming out of there. So that way that Iran couldn't choose who they let in and who they let out. That we blocked everybody. If you in there, everybody stay in there until you do how we want you to do. Everybody stay in there. So they wasn't getting no oil out. They wasn't getting no oil coming in. I mean, no ships coming in, no ships coming out, no oil, no sales, no nothing. That was how we responded to them threatening and trying to choose who comes in and who goes out and how much they come in and how much they got to pay to come out. Nope. We stopped everything. So, U.S. begins to remove the blockade. So that means we open our warships. We allow boats to start coming out. And Iran decides not to mess with any boats, not to fire on any vessels. Make sure everything passed through, all coming freely out. And that's why hundreds for the last couple of days. It's been like a couple of days. It's like 24 boats per day. They've been all coming out. They've been all leaving. You get what I'm saying? So they said it's like hundreds of millions of barrels of oils coming out of there now because it's on those 100 ships and stuff. So and the U.S. partners to plan for $300 billion reconstruction funds, meaning the Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Bahrain, they all decided that they would come together to financially be able to do some reconstruction to Iran to rebuild their buildings and their power grids and all that stuff like that. And but we have to clear them to do it, because in order for them to make the transaction and find funds, they got to go through the banking system. So there's no other way to get it to them unless we agree to it. But we're agreeing to it under steps and certain things that they got to do in order to get it. Okay, let's go.
In the meantime, a lot of Iranian assets are going to be unfrozen. Some of the limits that have been put on the export of Iranian oil by the United States is going to be lifted. The Strait of Hormuz will be toll-free only for 60 days. And of course, the Iranians have been talking with the Omanis about charging so-called service fees. So now
they can't do that because none of the other countries gonna want to have, like, Bahrain and Qatar and the UAE and even like China and all kind of countries. They ain't gonna want to pay a fee in order to get to the Strait of Hormuz. So and right now they can't charge a toll to it, but in the contract it says that all the countries will kind of work out a way to make it better security of how they leave out and make sure that they can't be held hostage like that no more. So Trump says under no circumstances will it be a toll. They'll blow up the whole Iran before they let them do a toll on that. So they can't disrupt this. So they can't disrupt the oil flow into the world anymore. So in a lot of countries, they decided that they're gonna make their own pipelines. They're gonna do all kinds of stuff, so they won't have to use that Strait of Hormuz no more. So that only hurt Iran by doing that. Nobody's gonna go back in there knowing that you messed around like that before.
it could become expensive for some ships to transfer through the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay, so all this is propaganda. This is all to just make it a muddy situation and make it seem like it's finalized. But remember, number 3 says that they come together to work out a deal within 60 days. Why is that number 3? Why is that actually an item or a step in the agreement to the memorandum of understanding? Because it says they're drawing up a final agreement. They're talking about it, and the propagandists and the media and the manipulators, they're talking about it like this is it. Well, then why they meeting up for 60 days then? Why they drawing up an agreement within 60 days? Why is the threat of this agreement has to be finalized in 60 days? That just lets you know how they lie, y'all. U.S. to terminate, number 7, U.S. to terminate all sanctions against Iran under conditions that they do what we want them to do and when we want them to do it, and they finalize what we tell them to do, and we'll release it. Iran reaffirms it shall not proceed. Iran affirms it shall not procure. I'm sorry, messing up. That's a procedure, right? Iran affirms it shall not procure or develop nuclear weapons. What does that mean? Procure means that they can't buy nuclear weapons from North Korea. They can't buy it from China. They can't buy it from Russia. You get what I'm saying? They can't like have uranium and transfer it from uranium into actual nuclear bomb. They can't in no way like form or have anything to do with nuclear weaponry. Okay? If you got uranium, then you got nuclear weaponry. You could turn it into a nuclear bomb. So they can't have uranium. So they can't procure it or develop it. They can't get anything to form it or anything. That's what that means, okay? And that's in the agreement, okay? Or to be in the agreement finalized, but at the same time, they have decided to even just go into an agreement to put it in there. So that obviously they have agreed they won't have nuclear weapons. They won't have nuclear bombs. They won't even procure it. They won't even buy it, buy the materials to farm it. That was the whole point of this. You get what I'm saying? To never allow Iran to have nuclear bombs. So that alone, he accomplished the whole goal that he had. All this other stuff of making the people stand up to their own government, that's their choice. You can't overthrow the Israel decided to kill a lot of their leaders and stuff. That wasn't our decision, but that they did it, they did it. You get what I'm saying? But that's got nothing to do with us. We can go in to take out the Ayatollahs, like his whole family and stuff. So we're gonna send military people in to do that, to overthrow the government, to change the government, to change the people. That's for the people to do. That's got nothing to do with us. Okay. Number 9, sides agreed to maintain status quo pending final deal, meaning that the way it is right now, that's the way it is to a final agreement. Meaning that they can't go mess with the mountain, to go try to find to mess around with the little nuclear dust and waste that we put at the bottom of the mountain. That, when you got to remember, Trump gave intelligence secrets away. He said that our satellites got 9 cameras on all those mountains, and if any trucks or anything or any cars or anything come into that area, and we done it, we actually do drone hits on them. Nobody can come in that area. You get what I'm saying? So they can't even mess with trying to dig into the mountain, which is going to be impossible for them to do. They can't do it. That's why they said only we can, or China has the excavator, what they call it, the equipment to go and get down there to try to, if there's anything that can be preserved to be destroyed, we the only ones that can actually get into the mountain to do it, because it's so far down and it's covered in rubble and stuff like that. Okay, so everybody got to stay at the status quo right now. They got to not do anything.
MOUs, Marco Rubio said that would be unacceptable. There are many Republicans who don't see this as a win.
Who
there
cares?
Are some who support Donald Trump.
They're losers.
They say that only he could have gotten this deal, but there are many more who are deeply critical. Just one other thing. Donald Trump said one of the drivers for getting this deal was the economy. He's talking about how the stock market has increased, and it has. How the oil price has come down, and it has. But there are many people very angry that the economy would be something that he would consider, given that this was all about a threat, not just to those in the Middle East, but also to the United States itself.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things about this is this plan we were talking about, $300 billion that's going to be released by regional partners in order to redevelop parts of Iran as a result, the destruction as a result of the war that the US and Israel began. This is something that is going to cause problems, I would imagine, for Donald Trump in the way that he describes this, because if I understand it correctly, Alan, this is money that is Iran's to begin with and had been frozen as assets. And of course, Donald Trump criticized the Obama administration for doing exactly what it appears as though is going to happen now, back in 2015 after the JCPOA, releasing Iranian cash back to the Iranians.
Well, J.D. Vance...
Yeah, but they talking about it like we didn't blow up all the nuclear like buildings and the actual labs and everything. We blew up everything. We killed all the Navy stuff and the Navy ships and everything. Everything about how they can actually protect themselves, we destroyed all that. Now, under those conditions and under that we finalize whatever that's little left of nuclear waste that they have, they gotta disintegrate it and destroy it. And then we start to give them the economic power to try to actually get themselves into some way where they into civilized and they may not want to do that. They may not want to do that. It's nothing. But at the same time, we ain't got to worry about them building no nuclear bomb.
Has been doing the rounds of the American TV stations over the last 24, 48 hours, and he's obviously been asked about the deal. And he has said, look,
I'm going to fast forward this to the other points because I don't really care what they say because it's just propaganda. It's just noise.
Money will be released as the Iranians meet targets.
Number 10, and he's saying what I'm saying, but you know they get into it. They kind of really messy. They talk about a lot of stuff, and they kind of talk about a lot of doom and gloom stuff, and then they say the point that they should have made that is under the conditions. You get what I'm saying? U.S. number 10, U.S. to immediately issue waivers for Iranian oil, meaning that they could sell their own oil. So that's okay. That's what they could do right now in order to feed their people. The only way that Iran can make money, they don't sell cars, they don't sell no other stuff. They only make money off of Iranian oil. So if they don't make oil, they can't even get rice to feed the people. Or however they economically to bring commerce back into the actual cities to actually make the people have some kind of decent modern life. You know what I mean? So they open that up immediately so they can sell, so they can put oil on China ships and be able to sell it and stuff. U.S. to make frozen Iranian funds fully available. That's only under conditions. They said that with the 300 billion stuff, but that's only under conditions. Even if they separate, they only under conditions. And I'm gonna take you to what Trump and them say so you can hear it in their own words. Okay. U.S. and Iran set up executive mechanisms to monitor. U.S. and Iran set up executive mechanism to monitor MOU, meaning that they both have people or things to make sure that, and not even people, certain steps that they actually have to do to make sure each people are doing, like we releasing certain money at certain times. They're actually destroying the nuclear waste at certain times. They're actually not attacking boats. They are not charging boats any fees or tolls or anything like that. They gotta do certain things, and we have mechanisms to make sure that they're actually doing it, not telling us, not rhetoric of our political parties or our systems or somebody lying to us. There's specific things to prove physically that it was done at certain times that it need to be done. So that's what that is. Okay.
And from my first reading of the Memorandum of Understanding, that absolutely seems to be the case, that there are benchmarks that have to be met and then more money will be released. But let me read you something that a Republican has sent to me. He said, we've heard about the Memorandum of Understanding and we were told that what was likely to be in it. This is not as bad as expected.
It's a memorandum of understanding. It doesn't have to be good or bad. It's what we're going to talk about, what we're going to put into the final agreement, what we're going to debate or negotiate about what put into the final agreement. Okay, so these are the last two, y'all. Order of implementation of the MOU paragraph and talks. Okay, order of implementation of MOU paragraphs and talks, meaning they talk about it, they finalize, and they come to agreement of all the things in the actual topics or task or things that of items inside the memorandum of understanding. They actually gonna come together, talk about it, and then number 14, the final deal will be endorsed by the binding United Nations Security Council. That's what that is. The UNSC resolution. Okay, so that's the United Nations Security Council resolution. So meaning that all the world know they did the agreement. They actually finalized and actually agreed upon these specific things. So if anybody crossed the line or don't do it, then the whole world know that you didn't stand by your word, you didn't stand by the agreement. That's what is in there. Okay, so that lets you guys know. So that's pretty much what's in the actual. I wanted to see what they said to make sure that they followed the actual thing. Okay, we're gonna go to another outlets perception of what's in the memorandum of understanding. And this is how you got to do research. This is how you got to do process. You got to go to different outlets to find out what the truth is.
Welcome to the Israel-Palestine Report. Al Arabiya, the Saudi news outlet that very often publicizes leaks of U.S. documents related to the Middle East and other treaties also in the Middle East before they are officially published, has released a copy of the Memorandum of Understanding, a leaked version of that document that was signed between the United States and Iran to end the war that has been going on. What does it say? What's included in it and what is very obviously left out of it is going to be the focus of this current video. Before diving into it, a couple of things are important to emphasize. One, like I said, this is a leak. It's not the official publication by either country. Neither Iran nor the United States has officially publicized what the Memorandum of Understanding includes. In the United States, Trump was asked why is he not publishing this, and he said that he would like to, but the different Arab countries have asked he not publicize it. Meanwhile, in Iran, several news outlets that are affiliated with the regime, like Tasnim and also Faris, have published versions of this, but each time they did not say this is the document. Instead, they said these are a couple of the items that are included in that document. What Al Arabiya published does match up to almost all the leaks and everything that has been said about this Memorandum of Understanding, and it's important to note Al Arabiya is very reputable with regards to its leaks. In the past, it has published a lot of things before the official publication, and they proved very accurate. So we're going to analyze what was published in Al Arabiya with that caveat and asterisk that this is a leak, not the official publication. Also important to note that while the official ceremony signing the memorandum between representatives of the United States, according to some reports, Vice President J.D. Vance himself is going to meet the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament, Mohammad Ghalibaf, on Friday in order to have a celebratory signing of this agreement. Despite the fact that's due to happen at the end of this week, all reports, and it was also confirmed by the United States, have said that the signing officially happened. The sides have agreed to this with an electronic signing, so it's already in effect, even though the ceremony is happening later on. Bearing all that in mind, what does this document say and what can we learn from it about the future of these conflicts and the Middle East? Article 1 of this document, very important, immediately says, the Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States, together with their allies in the current war, and that's extremely important, declare upon the signing of this Memorandum of Understanding an immediate and permanent end to the war on all fronts, including Lebanon, that is emphasized, and undertake that from now on they will not launch any hostile action against each other and will refrain from the threat or use of force against each other. The final agreement will confirm the provisions of this article and the remaining articles.
Okay, and see, that's why I want to show you to you guys, because it's all was like the previous Al Jazeera. They summarize what was in the number 1, what was in number 2, and all that other stuff, and different items that's in the actual memorandum of understanding. But getting closer to what's most likely was in the actual document that was signed by Trump, was signed by the president of Iran and stuff, you got to kind of go through different outlets to find out what's most likely was it. You get what I'm saying? And now you see the details of it in this one, okay? Or they said it was a leaked document, so we would go to what's most likely was said, okay?
Now, what do we take away from this? Firstly, the obvious reading that there's a ceasefire and an end to the war between the United States and Iran. In addition to that, however, that addition of and their allies is critically important. While for Iran, the allies would be the different proxy organizations, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, as well as different organizations operating in Iraq, Jordan, some of them in northern Syria, and etc. For the United States, the incorporation of and its allies means, among others, obviously the Arab and Gulf countries that have been part of the war, but chief among them is Israel. What that means, by the United States signing this, it is obligating Israel to this agreement. And within that, it is specifically saying the war will end on all fronts, including Lebanon. Why is that so important? Both the United States and Iran expressed a willingness already in April to end the war between them that is happening on the grounds of Iran itself. However, the battleground that was happening between Israel and Hezbollah.
Yeah, he's talking too much. Too much. Let's go to number 2, buddy. Is this number 2?
And Lebanon became one of
No.
the biggest focus.
This is still number 1. I'm sorry, y'all. We want to get to the nitty gritty. I'll kind of give you guys a summarization of what it is. Okay, so let's go.
Asked to receive an official copy of the memorandum before it was signed, and Trump denied it, not want to show Israel because he was afraid that Israel would leak the actual document. So Israel's included in this, but was not an official partner in the actual signing, and that is the ceasefire. Article 2. The Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States undertake to respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity and to refrain from interfering in each other's internal affairs.
And that's what I kind of showed you guys on there, where it kind of says that they will not invade each other's sovereignty, and they pretty much they land, they whatever's like our military base is literally like it's literally American land. That's how all countries and everybody has to look at it. So it just means don't attack our territories and stuff like that. And ships, military ships or oil ships and stuff like that. Iran and everything. That's what the agreement was to that. So I already kind of went over this stuff already with you guys.
While that may seem obvious.
See, we don't want to hear what he got to say. Look, if you guys do, you can, this is Israel-Palestine report with Professor Burstein, 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 was E-N. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me do it. You can look up his channel. It's the Israel-Palestine report with Professor Burstein. Burstein, I think that's how you probably Burstein. That's what you would probably pronounce it as. Israel-Palestine report with Professor Burstein. It's Burstein. If you want to go look him up.
Between sovereign countries, that's actually a...
Okay, so let's just go to 3. Because I'm not here for his way of communication or his point. I got mine.
That's very unlikely. However, will the negotiate...
Okay. Let me go. Some went into the green. I didn't even notice that.
Now that's put into writing. That's not supposed to happen. Continuing, the Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States undertake to negotiate and reach a final agreement within a maximum period of 60 days, extendable by mutual consent.
Okay, so it's pretty much the same thing that we seen in the actual summarization of what was in the Al Jazeera report, but this one has it where it has a maximum of 60 days for the final agreement. Pretty much what they're gonna agree and what steps and what actual items that they're agreeing upon, and the document and the agreement is. And if they can't get to an agreement, it has to be a mutual consent to extend it. You know what I mean? Meaning that if we don't want to extend it, Iran can't extend it. If Iran wants to extend it, but we don't want to, they can't extend it. We got to come to the final agreement within 60 days. Okay? There's a lot. You'll see that in a lot of, stuff where you say, in contracts when people say, if you want to get out of this contract, then it's got to be like mutual that both people agree to void the contract. You get what I'm saying? So that's what that is, to make sure that nobody get to sneak out of it or decide not to meet the deadline, because each party has to agree to extend it, to have like, okay, I agree with that and stuff like that. So obviously 60 days and go more than 60 days. I just don't think Trump gonna want to do more than that. You know what I mean?
Essentially, that's a way of saying this is just a limited deal. It has an end point, But in reality, if things are working well between the sides, it doesn't really have an endpoint. Saying this is a 60-day agreement is important, and this was important for the United States. Because as we're going to
this is not see. This is the problem about him giving commentary. He said this is an agreement, and it can go on if both parties know. Negotiate and reach a final agreement, meaning that they actually have to put what's the deal onto a document, onto a agreement, and they have to reach that consent, and they have to reach that deal to finalize of the negotiation on both how to proceed in the certain items in the actual memorandum of understanding. Remember, the memorandum of understanding locks them into, or actually gets them to a certain thing of how to get these certain items accomplished. Okay, and that's that understanding, and that agreement has to be locked and finalized, agreed upon 60 days. Okay, and it only can be extended by mutual consent, meaning that both people agree to extend it out, because maybe maybe it's a couple things that they want to debate more on or something like that. That's the only way, but that's not, if both parties don't agree to it, it can't be extended. He's saying like that the memorandum is the agree, or it's the contract. It's not. They're doing a final contract. They're negotiating, meaning that we don't even know what's going to be on the final contract, because they got to agree to the certain things that they wanted to talk about in the memorandum. The memorandum just tells them what they was going to talk about, what they want to talk about, and that's what that is. Okay, so he's bloviating and talking crazy stuff. That's why just put it on the screen what the items are. I'll do the rest.
extend these negotiations, certainly from the United States perspective, as long as the economy is rebuilding leading up to the midterm elections in November. Trump very likely is going to want to continue to extend these negotiations and not have any return to fighting. We'll see how that plays out. 4. Immediately upon the signing of this memorandum of understanding, the United States this is a copy-paste from what was leaked, but the United States will lift the naval blockade and prevent any interference or obstruction against the Islamic Republic of Iran, and restore traffic within a maximum of 30 days to its full capacity. The traffic of ships shall be proportional to the pre-war volume of traffic on the part of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The United States also undertakes to withdraw its forces from the surrounding areas within 30 days after the final agreement. So there's 3.
See that? Meaning that we wouldn't have to kind of have our military ships all over the place, because we got like 20, 30 ships over there right now. I'm talking about warships, like can destroy that whole area, really. All the countries in that area. You get what I'm saying? Really, they could. So that they're gonna withdraw the pretty much ready the almost like war attack ready is the readiness of us. Like, we'll withdraw it because we won't need it. We won't technically, after the final agreement, now you're bound by all the countries knowing that this is the agreement, and you have signed to say that this is the agreement, that it even on the procedure within 30 days, even like through the process of the 60 days, you got to show that you're doing to get rid of we're setting up and agreeing and actually doing certain things to get rid of the nuclear waste that you have and nuclear arsenal or materials that you have. We gotta see this. We gotta know this. Otherwise, you don't get nothing but the $6 billion that we gave you. So that's in the agreement already. I'm trying to summarize everything real quick, guys, but that's what that says and stuff like that. So all that agreement is based on them actually doing what we told them they got to do under the conditions of us making sure that they're not a threat. Okay? All this.
Separate aspects to Article 4 here. First, the United States immediately upon the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding agrees to remove its own naval blockade that it put at the
Yeah, that's why the ships are coming through. But we're not just releasing our naval ships. They have to not threaten the ships too. They can't shoot no missiles over to them. They can't have any like underwater bombs and stuff and trick what they call them, like booby traps and stuff. They can't have none of that. And they gotta let the boats go. That's why in the last couple of days, that's why you've been hearing about 24, 30 boats been traveling out of that area. So that's what's been going on. So that's what that is. I kind of broke this down to you guys already. So we can move this on. Let's do this. Let me go to, I'm going to the fifth one. Okay.
evacuate all of those forces. That's very unlikely. However, will the negotiations be only about those ships that were brought in or something further? Probably each side is interpreting that differently at this point. Article 5. Upon the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding, the Islamic Republic of Iran will immediately take steps to ensure that the movement of merchant ships from the Persian Gulf to the Sea of Oman and vice versa is resumed within 30 days to the pre-war volume, taking into account the need for the removal of technical obstacles and the neutralization of mines by Iran. So this is now
meaning underwater mines and stuff like the booby traps I was telling you guys about. They got to make sure that they ain't got none of that stuff going on, which we know that you can't have 24, 30 boats. And I keep saying boats, but they're ships. They're oil ships. They're huge ships. You can't have them traveling out of the Strait of Hormuz and not getting hit by a booby trap. So it shows that there wasn't really a lot of booby traps there, and if it was able to get moved so fast, which we would see that with our satellites, with our drones, with our military surveillance and stuff like that off the ships and stuff. We would see them take that stuff out, and we would know what's popping off and technically what was going on. So yeah, that's just scare tactics by Iran.
Iran's side. The United States is going to remove its blockade, and Iran in turn is going to take steps in order to allow the free transfer of goods, primarily oil and natural gas, through the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay, so we don't really need him to keep going, Dad. Let's go to the next one.
30-day period out of the 60-day period, theoretically, of the ceasefire, which again is extendable. Article 6. The United States undertakes, together with its regional partners, to create a comprehensive plan agreed upon by both parties for the rehabilitation and economic development of the Islamic Republic of Iran, while ensuring financing of at least $300 billion US. The implementation mechanism of this plan as part of the final agreement will be formulated within 60 days.
Which ain't no way in hell we signing on to spend over at least 300. That could be $1 trillion. You get what I'm saying? Because it's at least 300 billion. I mean, that's the floor. You get what I'm saying? So we ain't gonna agree on that. But it's actually not the terminology of it is not accurate. That's why even in the agreement it will be finalized that the other Gulf, and it's the reason why it's even a thought process is because Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, they are decided to say they actually came to America and say, you know what, we want to, if they agree to the no nuclear bombs and no threats and stuff, and no wild stuff, we want to go in there and make it a beautiful country with buildings and technology and roads and infrastructure and all that stuff like that, and great power plants and stuff like that. We want to go in there and give them some modern civilization going on, and we're willing to put up at least $300 billion. That's what Saudi Arabia, that's what Qatar, that's what they came to America and said. So that's why it was an option to put on the table as an incentive for Iran to get into the new world, to get into the new infrastructure of life and commerce and pretty much the economic flow of the economy, to give them an economy. That's what that at least 300 billion come. That wasn't us giving the money. That was them. Like the other Gulf countries decided to boom Iran up and give them high technology like Saudi Arabia, like Qatar, like Dubai, and all that stuff. Okay, so that's what that is. And on the contract, it's going to guarantee that we ain't saying that we giving up U.S. money for that, because Trump and them made it clear we ain't giving a dime to these motherfuckers. You get what I'm saying? But look, I know, look, we're going to do one more, and then I'm going to break this up in half, because I know I probably went a little, what are we at? 114. So yeah, I'm gonna do one more, and then we're gonna I'm gonna come back in with a second part to it and stuff like that, and we can do the other 7, and then we're gonna go to some speeches and different stuff with Trump and everything. But I'm not gonna hold you up too long. One more.
To make of this, Iran demanded in all of its negotiation rounds that Israel and the United States pay reparations. Iran,
and we ain't doing that. I know that they said that, but we ain't doing it. So all the Gulf countries decided to do that, and it's gonna be in the final deal, because it's gotta be in writing. So that ain't gonna happen. Okay. So let's go to this last one.
allow the United States to say it's not actually paying Iran any reparations. It's just facilitating maybe a Qatari investment fund that then itself invests in Iran. We'll see also how that plays out. 7. The United States commits to ending, on a schedule to be agreed upon as part of the final agreement, all types of sanctions currently facing the Islamic Republic of Iran, including resolutions of the United Nations Security Council and the Board of Governors of the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, and all unilateral U.S. sanctions, both primary and secondary.
And I think it's about a total of $100 billion that under all those sanctions that we have, that we hold in a money. So we probably got $100 billion of theirs hold in certain sanctions and stuff like this, held as an actual banking hold. So it can't be released to them until we lift it. Okay, so that's the incentive to make them go through the contract and go through the negotiation of the agreement, right? And through the finalization of the agreement, they can get all that money back. But that would be after all the nuclear waste and the nuclear materials that they have is destroyed and disintegrated, that they make sure that they don't mess with the Strait of Hormuz, and they don't have any kind of booby traps there, or they're not forcing people to pay a toll or all that crazy stuff, which we will bomb them again if they try to any of that stuff, But anyway, it's to make sure that they're living by the agreement that would be finalized. They would get all that money lifted, and they would have a good life and a good economy, and they will actually be functioning human beings for the first time in the last 47 years. Okay, that's what's in there. We're gonna stop at 7. We got 7 more to go, and then I want to take you guys through the speeches and stuff like that. So stay tuned. My name is Daris D. McKinney. This is Individual Perspective Podcast. And I wanted to give you guys a nitty gritty to kind of go with the previous episodes, because I was cussing and I was ranting and raving and it was wild. But I wanted to give you substantial data to what we're all talking about. Please like, subscribe, put your comments if you like this video and anything that you see, and stay with me, and we're going to get in the flow of it. And like I said, I'm going to do a ton. I know I got to do 250 hours of this stuff monthly. So look, I'm trying, but I need your help to get this platform moving and going. And you can help that by throwing in $1, $2 into the links at the bottom, or the super chat, or whatever, comments and everything. And we'll lock on this. Look, support the growth. Okay. I'll see you guys in the next one. And we're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into the nitty gritty of it. It's nerdy right now. We're giving you data. I'm giving you something to make sure that the substance is there, okay? And we got a lot to get through this weekend. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Check you out. My name is Daris D. McKinney. This is Individual Perspective Podcast.